Welcome to the Empowered Team Podcast. I'm your host, Kari Schneider, and I am so happy to introduce you to the Motivational Triad. If you haven't heard of the Motivational Triad, let me just tell you a little bit about it. It's the thing that gets you going. It's the thing that keeps you on the couch. It's the thing that stops you from doing what you want to do, even though you know you really want it and you're not doing it. I don't know if you've been in that boat, but I know I have. And everyone that I know as high achievers have this zone where they're like, why can't I get this thing done? It's a 20-second task and I'm not doing it. I wanted the flowers planted and I'm letting them sit there dying. Even though I know I want that, I don't know what you've got in your life, what you're avoiding in your life, but there's something there. And what we tend to do is beat the crap out of ourselves. That might be a little extreme, okay, but maybe you talk poorly to yourself about, why can't I do this? This is so simple. I haven't done this yet. And then you've got this little voice that's kind of naggy, a little bit like a rude mother, and you're not doing it still. So I want to tell you today a little bit about the motivational triad. Why? So that you can understand yourself a little more, have a little more grace for yourself, and know how to move forward when you feel stuck from not taking action on something you know you want. Okay, that's what it's all about. So the motivational triad is very simple. It is avoiding pain, seeking pleasure, and staying comfortable. That's the motivational triad. It is an evolutionary concept that has been around in science for a very long time. And when people do studies on this, they look at humans, they look at rats. I'll give you a little example. When scientists set rats up in an experiment to see if they will pick chocolate, they can press a lever for chocolate or press a lever to avoid pain. Now, I know this sounds cruel and unusual, and I'm not in support of any sort of animal abuse, but these are the studies that have been done, unfortunately. And what happens is that the rat will choose to avoid pain versus going for something pleasurable if the pain was recent or if they anticipate it. Then those rats are going to choose to avoid pain over receiving pleasure. Even though they're not getting pain in the moment, they're going to choose the avoid pain, even though they could have the pleasure right now. That's us. So we'll avoid something that we perceive as painful, even though we know there could be pleasure available to us right now if we do that. That is an example. I'll give you for instance, you feel good when you work out. You know you want to work out. You know it's part of your long-term vision. And yet the couch and Netflix are calling to you and you choose the couch and Netflix. That's avoiding just that little bit of pain of going toward the thing you know you like, going towards the thing that really is for your future self. That's the low-hanging fruit, the workout example, but this is going on in every little project at work, our systems that we have to get done. Some of us are really fine-tuned and well-oiled in certain areas, but then just like me, because you're a human, that there's an area that is a little tougher for you and there's this pain avoidance going on. The first thing I want you to understand about this is critical to understand, is that this is how our brain is designed to function to keep us safe. It's called pain sensitivity and negative bias. So we are going to prioritize over avoiding pain over gaining a reward. That has been shown in research over and over again. Now, there is an exception to the rule. We as humans can learn to override this. This is why the firefighters run into the burning building. We can learn to override this thing that's already there in our brains and still go ahead and do it anyway. So what's the difference here? And this is important. What's the difference? We can override by understanding our own values, our own identity, and our vision. Values, vision, and identity. If we know it and that becomes more important to us, then we will override discomfort and risk. So I know you've heard me talk values a whole bunch, but that's what the research shows. That's why the firefighter can go into the burning building despite the fact that they know there's going to be pain. It's not comfortable and it could be life-threatening. And yet they've trained themselves to override that human instinct of being pain sensitive and negatively biased. All right. So I'm going to go into something that's just a little more subtle here so that you can see it on a smaller scale, because you're probably not a firefighter running into a burning building. You're probably dealing with a different kind of fire called a marital relationship, a business, parenting children, tasks that need to get done that keep getting put on the back burner, even though they're important to you. So that might be your real life. So what does this look like? There's a thing, and it's called an effort paradox. So an effort paradox, when we're looking in the world of psychology, an effort paradox is when someone knows that the thing feels good to do. So it might be like, you know that the going through the process of the project, it feels like progress. It feels like happiness. The project getting finished feels really, really good. But at the same time, you don't want to do it. The effort that's required to do it has us avoid that effort. So we've got this conflict. And the conflict is labeled as something very specific. It's called activation energy. Activation energy is that oomph, that push that we need to get started. One of the reasons that when we start habits or we start something new, we want to make it as easy as possible. That's in an ideal world, because if you're like many of the overachievers that I know, that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is making it really difficult by going for something really big right off the hop. But the secret to going through the pain avoidance, going through the staying comfortable or going on the path of least resistance, the secret is actually making the step as easy as possible. Making the new habit, the new behavior, as easy as possible. If you can do that right there, that's the ticket to getting over what your brain is doing all of the time, which is this motivational triad. Avoid pain, seek pleasure, stay comfortable. But when we know that seeking pleasure is at the bottom of our brain's priority list, meaning seeking the kind of pleasure of our future vision, not the seeking pleasure of chocolate in the mouth right away. That's our true eudaimonic pleasure, the stuff that takes a bit of work, that takes a bit of struggle, that's most fulfilling. That kind of pleasure is at the bottom of our list when it comes to path of least resistance, avoiding pain, seeking progressive pleasure, not at the top of the list. And unfortunately, that's what we're trying to put at the top of the list by giving ourselves an identity, by telling ourselves who we are, by having values that we want to take actions that we align with. So this activation energy is the thing that stops us from taking the first step, even though we know we want to take that first step because it leads to something that's really important to us. It's so backwards in so many ways, and yet once you understand it and don't judge yourself for it, then you go, oh, of course. I'm not doing this because my brain is perceiving this as too much energy. How can I make it as easy as possible? Try that on as self-talk. Try that on to encourage yourself just to start. Because the thing that's most interesting to me about this is that we're not doing something because we're perceiving that it's going to be uncomfortable or we're perceiving that it's going to be painful. And yet the act of not doing the something creates pain in the long run. So we're telling ourselves that whatever we're going to go into is going to be uncomfortable, too much energy, painful in some way or another. We're telling that to ourselves, but it's a lie that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It's not reality. Yet that's what we're telling ourselves in order to stay where we are. But where we are is actually giving us the pain of not having what we want. It's so bizarre. This is the human conundrum. This is what I call the human algorithm. If you can crack this algorithm, this code, if you can crack this, then you can be up to all the things, no matter how hard you perceive they are, because you realize it's just a perception. You realize it's just your brain doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And then you can go, wait a second, the reality that I'm creating is actually the pain because it's not the reality that I want. Isn't that interesting? That's cracking the code. It's just our brain and what it has to do every single day. Why does it perceive that it has to do that? Because it's allowed us to survive. It's allowed us to continue to live on for so long. And yet these old tools of survival don't work in the new world that we live in. So it's time to take this antiquated pattern, and I mean, it's not antiquated, it still works for us. So I'm gonna take that back. But it is antiquated in the sense that it doesn't work for what we really want and who we really want to become. So when we look at it from that perspective, then we can sit and go, so I'm not doing this because I perceive it's just going to be so hard. But is it actually that hard, or am I just making that up? So the key here is what I called the activation energy. This is the thing that if we reduce it, we give our efficient brains what it craves. Ease. Ease, ease, ease. Ease and not challenge. Ease and not excuses. So reduce the activation energy. What does this look like? This looks like setting up the dominoes so that they fall really easily. For me, I do this by an evening ritual. I brush my teeth. While I'm brushing my teeth, I go and get some things ready for bed, like my clothes out while I'm brushing my teeth. When I've got my clothes out, that reminds me to get my water. When my water's out, that reminds me to have my journal ready. When my journal's ready, that reminds me to have my book for after my journal. When my book's ready, it reminds me to have my meditation before I go to bed. If I tried to introduce one of those things in that bedtime ritual, it would have felt too hard. And the reason I know is because I've done it. I've been trying to introduce my water picking on my teeth into that routine. But the only way it's going to get introduced is if I make it as easy as possible. One of the ways to do that is have it set up ahead of time when I find it easier to set up. Because at the end of the day, I can promise you this, to do something new at the end of the day, I do not have any energy tokens left to add something new. It has to be already systematized. It has to already be in my easy path going to bed. That's my path. So take a look at where you can make something easier. Easier, easier, easier. Have someone else set up the whole sequence of the entire project. All you have to go in and do is see if it looks like it's the good sequence. Set up your clothes for the next day. Put your running shoes by the door. Have an automated reminder to call a family member. Automate things that you know are really important that need to happen so it's at a regular date every month. Haircut. So you don't have to think about getting it and booking it and it becomes a pain in the butt. And then your haircut is 3 weeks later than you wanted it to be. You feel like you look like a woolly mammoth. Those are the types of things that you can make easy in your life. And so they feel seamless. And it can be really big things too. The thing about it is to make it easy. And sometimes when we make something easy, we tell ourselves that if we've made it easy, then it's not as worthwhile, or we weren't as good. We make it a moral issue, and it's not a moral issue. It's just about getting it done. It's just about giving ourselves the best opportunity, the best chance to get it done. Trust me, I've seen this with thousands of humans. I've experienced it myself, and we will continue to experience it every single day, likely for the rest of our lives, because we have a human brain. But when we know how to operate this particular tool called a human brain, then it's so much easier to get what we want at the end of it. Your brain is the most energy-hungry organ in your body. It is taking up so much of your energy. So what it naturally wants to do is repeat patterns. And if you're finding that you're struggling changing something, it's probably because it's what I call a residual automation. You've already moved on besides that thing. You don't drink alcohol anymore, or you don't procrastinate on projects, or you don't do, and then all of a sudden you find yourself doing it and you're like, oh, that's not who I am anymore. What just happened? A residual automation happened. It's an old program. It's not who you are anymore, but your brain is operating on optimal efficiency. And so it's going to keep repeating this pattern because it worked before and it wants this pattern before, but you don't want it anymore. So that's where, in order for you to change that pattern, you make it really easy, the change really easy. Oh, I'm not going to just stop alcohol. I'm going to have seltzer water with this really cool flavor in it. I love it. That's an easier change than cutting something off cold turkey. Make it easy for yourself. Do yourself a solid. Have your own back. Support yourself. This is where it's going to happen. And when I say it's whatever your goal is, whatever you want to be consistent with, whatever aligns with who you really are versus some of the behaviors that aren't who you want to be. So don't blame your wonderful, beautiful brain. It's just what it's supposed to do. The motivational triad. Seek pleasure, avoid pain, stay comfortable. It's going to keep doing that. So by expecting something different would be fighting your own brain. Let's work with it. Let's not believe what it's telling us, which is, oh, this is so hard, or this is going to be hard. Let's not believe that. And let's just offer it some really tantalizing, easy first step or easy next step. That's what we want to do. Let's make it fun. Let's make it easy. Let's take the steps. Your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. You are doing exactly what serves you by working on your own self-mastery. I hope this topic really opens up the motivational triad to help you go through the things that you've been resisting. Let's go. You are empowered. Keep it going. Have a wonderful day and an incredible week. Keep being empowered.